Welcome to Midlife Catalyst, a place where ordinary people share extraordinary stories of doing life differently. I'm Amanda Younts, and today's guest has a lot to offer around areas I am deeply passionate about. Ellie LaLiberté, which I will let her give the correct pronunciation of her name when we get her on here. My country accent doesn't do it any justice. Ellie, an award-winning author and self-awareness coach, committed to helping individuals learn about witness consciousness and how to get back to your inner peace. She helps people get out of survival mode and reconnect to your higher self through stillness. She is an integrated practitioner of silent meditation and is here to share her journey and help us navigate midlife challenges to rediscover the truth of who we really are. Ellie, welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be on here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful that you're here. And just start, please, by giving us the correct pronunciation of your name, and then let's dive into your name because so much of your story starts there.
Sure. Liberté. La liberté is French, and it's the same as freedom. So my last name is literally freedom. So I have to represent that into my life, and that's what I've been trying to do my entire life.
Yes, which I love that. And so for the listeners, you are in Canada. That's where some of the French comes from. And that is what I love about the podcast is that we connect and reach people worldwide. I think that opens up new avenues of cultures and of lived experiences.
Absolutely.
I have been using your book as part of my morning practice this week. And so I've already found out some very interesting things about you, but I want you to start from the beginning and share your story with the listeners.
Sure, absolutely. So it's Letters from You to You. And actually, that book was written in a time where I really needed to surrender to something that was higher. I've gone through emotional healing for the last 7 years now, and I was going into different kind of levels of healing. It started with a big awakening when I got separated, and it was the first time that I was actually on my own, which was really, really big shock to me. I'd never been on my own since ever, really, because I was in that relationship for 12 years from the age of 19. So when I got separated really suddenly, it was a surprise to me. It happened really quickly. I also lost my business at the same time. And so I basically was losing pretty much everything at the age of 31. And when I say I lost everything, I was losing everything that was familiar to me. So yes, I was losing things, physical things as well, like a business, even my house, because now we couldn't pay the mortgage anymore. So I needed to sell it. But it was more like I was, losing everything that was familiar to me. And so I was losing also that part of me that was familiar to me, right? The part of me that had been in a relationship for a long time, that was with someone that had created an identity with that also had created an identity with my business and what I was doing. And so it was kind of like, who am I now that I don't have all of these things? And how do I go forward in the world? And even though I, was already into spirituality since the age of 21, there's absolutely nothing like when you are actually in an experience that is showing you who you are on your own. And that's exactly what had happened. So throughout these couple of years, I had to really understand who I was on my own. I went again into patterns, which was trying to find a partner for the longest time and just not getting that, I needed to understand who I was without anyone before I could get myself back into a relationship, because we get into relationships again when we're not healed. We're just going to be recreating the same patterns and we're going to be blaming the other person for hurting us, but really we're just continuing to attract the same kind of energies that we used to attract in our past. And so, yeah, it was a big journey of extreme shedding. And then only 2 years ago, or almost 3 years ago now, God, it goes so fast, I got myself back into another level of surrendering. And this is where the book came in. I didn't expect to write a second book. So it was my second book. My first one was in my 20s. And it was almost like 10 years later. And I was just sitting in meditation and I received that kind of calling where it said, you got a second book to write. And this is the title, which was Letters from You to You. And that's the way that you're going to write it, the entire book. And so I sat down and it took me a month. I had a lot of time back then because I was so much in transition with my business as well. So the other business after, because I created another business right after my separation. And I was kind of like letting go of that business and letting go of that energy. So I didn't know what to do with myself in my life anymore in that sense where it was kind of like, okay, now that I've spent all of this time healing and understanding who I am and really shedding so much of myself, and what am I supposed to do now? And so I wrote the book and then everything started to flow. I knew that I couldn't get in the way of this book because this book was bigger than me. I feel like I was channeled the entire time while I was writing it. And the way that it's composed is very unique. It's composed of 21 letters that are written from the perspective of your higher self. So obviously my higher self was the one guiding me through the entire book. And it was just really, there's so many truths that were very revealing. And I think that people, the way that they are taking this book is in a couple of ways where they feel like it's a direct approach. It's kind of like sometimes tough love, but it's also very soothing and it kind of feels like your higher self is holding you the entire way, right? And so it's giving you and revealing you these truths that you've always had within you, but you've just ignored for such a long time because we're so conditioned, right? But at the same time, while you're experiencing these
Right.
truths, it's like holding space for you and letting you know that you are so loved and that you can go through this deconditioning and this healing because you've got that energy that is always there, just holding you throughout all of the pain and just letting you know that there is peace on the other side. So yeah, it's been quite a journey with the book. I've had a lot of fun, and now I created a course that goes with it as well. So it's a course that goes deeper into the teachings of the book. And so if people want to really put the teachings in practice, they can absolutely do that with the course. And there's like meditation as well in there and a little bit more on witness consciousness, which we can talk about because that's a topic that I really love. But yeah, there's
Yes.
deeper things.
Yes, please. Yeah, there's so many things to unpack, but let's start with the witness consciousness because I've never heard that term until I came across you. So explain
Sure.
what it is and what you do. And yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, with this consciousness, to be honest with you, I've only been really practicing it for the last 2 to 3 years. Like at the same time as when I wrote the book, it's kind of like another level of simplicity I feel in spirituality. Sometimes we complicate a lot of things with spirituality, with everything that kind of like exists outside of ourselves, whether it's astrology, whether it's tarot cards, or even like practices like yoga, even meditation, or to be honest, like there's so many kinds of meditation, there's breath work. There's a lot of modalities that kind of brings you to kind of live a spiritual life if you want. But the thing is with witness consciousness, it's so simple because it's everything that has to do with watching what your mind is creating. So everything that it can be observed from a objective point of view from the mind, this is what witness consciousness is. So you're becoming the witness, which means you're just becoming aware. So the awareness, you're stepping into your awareness, getting out of your personality and just seeing what the personality is actually creating on a daily basis with the mind, which is unfortunately the ego that is creating stories and drama and just commenting on every single thing that it's looking at, judging. And so it's the practice of stepping out of the personal and becoming that witness that is just looking at, like, I just reacted this way. Why did I react this way? Why am I feeling this way right now? So you're watching your mind. You're watching your thoughts and you're watching your feelings, your emotions from the reactions that your ego is automatically always doing in a sense. So it is pretty simple, although it asks of us a lot of discipline. And the best way to start witness consciousness is when you meditate. So this is the reason why we meditate. We're not meditating just to relax. We're actually meditating so that we can have that ability in our daily lives of doing what we're doing in meditation, but in everyday lives with the mind. right? Because we are so much in our minds, and everybody is like, everybody has been
Yes.
conditioned to really just believe that they are the mind, but we're more than the mind. We
Mhm.
have to kind of like take control back of our minds and stop letting the mind just take over our lives, right? And when I say the mind, sometimes it's confusing because some people talk about the mind, some people talk about the ego. I'm talking about an aspect of the mind that the ego is kind of involved in. So because it happens like the ego is just in the mind, right? So when I say mind, I just want people to know that it's the same thing as if I would say the ego. So that aspect of us that is just, attached to everything and making everything ours and yeah, just taking everything personal, right? And the person, if you want.
Mhm.
So yeah, so with this consciousness scan, it's super simple, but it needs to be well explained, I believe, so that people know how to start doing it. Because some people could say, well, that's a lot of psychology. It's all about like the mind, the thoughts, and things like that. But where I feel like it's very spiritual is that when you are becoming the witness, you're actually being in your essence, which is impersonal, and you are getting back into peace right away. If you can catch yourself in a reaction and you can start asking yourself the real questions which will challenge your ego, but this is the point, is that we want to step out of the ego and we want to get more into our authentic selves and our higher self. If you want, we want to merge with the higher self. So we want to start really just questioning the ego and why are we reacting this way? Why is this thing bothering us? Why are we, we're driving and someone passes us and we're like screaming almost at the person because it just irritated us because he passed us, or someone in front of us is driving too slow and we're just irritated, like, and we just want that person, like, but then we're having this dialogue in our heads and being like, why the hell are you going so slow? And just like creating this drama for absolutely nothing. And then we keep these stories with us and we bring them to, let's say, our workplace. And we're like, oh my God, I was driving and this car in front of me. And then we just go on and on without asking, like, without even questioning it, right? Because it's so automatic and we've been taught to do that probably by our parents because we saw them do that and whatever. But we can take back our power and start looking at that and start really just wanting to choose. I would rather be in peace than in that drama, that story, that attachment that is always stressing me out. Like, it's always stressing my nervous system, and really start,
Yes.
yeah, just start realigning with that energy that is subtle and that is simple and that it always just wants to be present and not participate in things that don't really matter, and that's what's going on right now in the world is people are kind of like not knowing how to think anymore because, we're being really, really challenged right now. And so everybody's being very triggered. So it's a beautiful opportunity to start practicing this because now you have to stop blaming the outside world because the outside world is just going to be chaotic anyways. And so you have a choice now to say, okay, well, I think that I want to live a life of more peace and not be so bothered by whatever's going outside of myself because it becomes almost like a joke as well. When you really look at what's going on, it's just so chaotic that we have to not continue to participate and give our energies to this, right? So what are we doing? We start doing that. We start focusing on our inner world instead of like the outer world. And I don't think that some people might say you're ignoring then what's going on. We're not ignoring, but we're not wanting to
Mm-mm.
participate in
Right.
something that isn't real and that has no meaning. Like we can't continue to put the fire with more fire of our energies that are stressed and just it won't go anywhere. And this is the reason why there's so much war right now in the world. It's because people are not willing to do this work. And so it starts with you. And that's how I explain it in the book too, is like everything starts with you. So this is what witness consciousness is pretty much all about. But like I said, there's a lot more to it, but it starts with you sit down with yourself, be in silence, and look at what's going on in your own world, in your own mind, and the chaos that's going there before you start commenting and judging and really reacting to what's going on outside of you. Because the reason why you're reacting and being super stressed is because you haven't looked at what's going on inside. This is why it's just a reflection of your own chaos, right? So you want to go and find the peace and see. Yeah.
So this has been so key for me in I'm a fixer, I'm a type A, I'm a doer, I'm a problem solver. And quite honestly, a lot of times I feel like I have some answers and I can help other people or a situation, but that's not my role. That's not my lane. And my job is to take care of me. And so the more I can, like you said, surrender, relinquish that control, and get really into the not participating. I love that you said that, not participating. And it doesn't mean I don't care about people, trauma, things that are going on in the world, but I can't fix those things. I can only fix myself. And so if more people would just take ownership of self, then we could get to a better place of peace. But people want to interject and take things that don't belong to them and have an opinion or input. And that leads to all this chaos that you were talking about.
Yeah. I don't think that people do that on purpose either, right? So it's because of the condition.
Right. It,
Yeah.
yeah. So I make all sorts of things in my head. And as I have this consistent morning practice, I can make sense of those. I write them out and this is the story you told yourself. This is not actually true. And that's gotten much easier over time with a practice and a routine of meditation and journaling and stillness. But then I go back out in the busy world and I show up at my job and I show up with friends and family or turn on the news, and that's lost. So I struggle to bring that with me consistently into those scenarios. And that's where if I'm, getting controlled by other people rather than taking control of myself. So how does that become a consistent practice? Because, people will say, well, you just go on a week-long meditation retreat. But you've got to be able to bring that back day in, day out. It's not a silent retreat, right? This is how you're a way of being, a way of living. What are some strategies and how does that start to happen? And I think that's where you get into the surrendering and releasing the ego and that person to step into the new person. So it's one true self in all aspects. How do you get there?
So it's not a quick way of getting there. Unfortunately, we've been conditioned all of our lives. And I'm never going to stop saying that because it's a truth that if we would have started this work when we were 10, it would have been a different story. But most of us, don't really get to awaken before close to our fees. And when I say an awakening, I mean a real awakening. And it obviously also, there's a lot of the time, unfortunately, and it's still like this today. And I'm hoping that it will change, but we always seem to have a big event, like something that happens in our life where we go through something tragic enough that it wakes us up. And so I'm hoping that this will change for the new generation coming into the world so that they don't have to go through so much pain to, realize like what does it feel like to live in a more peaceful lifestyle. But it is the contrast that makes us grow. And it's sometimes like we have to get to our knees, kind of like what happened to me. And not just once, it happened a couple of times where I needed to get to my knees to really understand how to let go of an old version of me, right? And I always say like we're really just dying of an old self. This is what happens, and this is why we step into a more conscious self, because it's kind of like we don't have a choice. Like we can't go back to the version that it was just like not serving us anymore, and we need to listen now to that higher self that is always wanting us to just expand and let go of all of the lies, really. So I think it is quite a journey in getting to be very consistent with these practices. But like I said, it starts with at least being aware. Like even in meditation, there's a lot of people that are gonna say like, oh, I'm not good at meditating. And then you're like, why? And they're like, well, I sit down and I just, it's kind of like my mind just doesn't know how to shut up and I'm just not feeling well. And I'm like, I just give up. And then I'm like, well, that's amazing because meditation, yes, is about stilling the mind. But at the beginning, it's about witness consciousness. Really, that's what you're doing. So you're actually sitting, you're making that a priority for, let's say, 15 minutes, you already won because you made that decision to sit down and be uncomfortable and then notice that you have thoughts that are running your life. And so right there, you are winning. So that's the first step. And if you have to be uncomfortable for the next couple of months because you are doing it constantly enough, then you're winning still because you're actually sitting in this discomfort, which a lot of people are not even willing to stay more than like 30 seconds because they feel like they're freaking out and it's just, no, I don't want change, blah, 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 So just the fact that you can be sitting in meditation, and I say meditation because it is the start of meditation. It's just sitting there and staying until, feel like you've calmed down the thoughts and that you're able to just watch them. Stop kind of like attaching yourself to them and letting you're kind of like being run by them, but you're actually just sitting there and you're noticing and you're seeing how crazy the mind is. Seriously, this is what it is. And then so you're having this witness being revealed to you like, wow, I can actually do this. I can see the mind as being separate from me. So because we're not the mind, right? The mind is part of us in the sense where we need it, right? But we are not the mind. We don't have to identify with what's going on in our mind, right? So just the fact that you can do that, you're already winning. If you want to now understand how to really calm down that mind and really get back into kind of like being in true silence where you're not even having any thoughts, this will take time. And it's just the reality of it. It will take time. You need to be super consistent with your meditation. You need to do them every single day if you want to get to the point where you can sit. And it will not happen right away when you're sitting down, by the way. It's not true that you can sit unless you've been doing this for years and years and years and you're really getting like mastering it. But you're going to sit down, and even that happens to me. I sit down and I decide, okay, I'm going to be meditating for, let's say, 40 minutes in silence. It's because there are different kinds of meditation. The beginning of meditation, it can be guided meditation. It's a little easier, but then when you're really wanting to observe these thoughts, it's silent meditation is the best because you can really just sit with your thoughts and look at them. But when you want to still the mind and stop kind of having that chatter and just being quiet, the first things you do is you observe your breath, but the thoughts are going to still be there. The chatter, man, it's really powerful. It's always there. So the chatter is still going to be there for maybe a couple of minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And then eventually, because you've disciplined yourself enough to always come back, so you're not attaching to the thoughts. You're seeing thoughts, but you're not attaching to them. You're saying, okay, I want to come back to the breath. I come back to the breath. So you come back to your breath and eventually, whoop, you're not even noticing it. You quieted the mind and that's awesome. But now bringing that into the world is another challenge in itself, but it's the reason why you're doing it. So you're not doing it just to relax. You're doing it to, like you said, like, how can I bring this after into my life and really just, not forget about all of this work that I do when I'm alone? Because doing it when you're alone, yeah, I get it. It's easier. It's still hard, but it's easier because you don't have as much distractions from the energies of other people. But when you're doing it constantly and you're actually, this is the power of witness consciousness, is that now you know that you're going to be surrounded by people, you're going to be surrounded by things. It is your opportunity to really put this in practice and think about it. So now you're going to be purposely thinking about, how can I catch myself? The way that I react with my friends that are all around me. Am I judging? Am I just observing? Am I getting irritated right now from what they're saying? I may not be relating anymore to these people. Do I want to stay around them? Do I want to continue to see them? If they're part of my circle in my workplace, am I always around them, or am I, do I have to be around them? Can I just be more in my bubble and not make a big thing about it, but kind of like just, make a decision? Do I want to continue to hang out with them, let's say at lunchtime, and go eat with them or whatever? What is important to you in that sense? If you're wanting to really discipline yourself to do this work, you're going to have to make some decisions like that. And it's not being mean to anybody. It's really just respecting your own energy and knowing like where you want to live your life. How do you want to see and perceive the world? Because obviously when we're doing this work, and this has been also my challenge, by the way, I think it's a challenge for everybody that's in this space. There is a point where you're like, okay, I love this lifestyle, but there's kind of like a paradox, because as much the more that I'm reconnecting to my higher self and this lifestyle and just really wanting to, be at peace in my life and really making this a discipline, the more I'm being disconnected from everybody else. Because most people, unfortunately, that are
Yes.
surrounding me and probably surrounding you and a lot of people, they are not even aware that they need to do this work and they're not curious about it even, right? And we were not blaming them for not wanting to do this. They might be very comfortable in that, and that's okay. That's where they are. But the thing is that it gets really uncomfortable for us because now we don't know how to relate anymore. So we don't know how to have conversations because obviously you're going to be having a conversation like this and they're going to look at you and be like, what the hell are you talking about? And I don't really care because I'm just thinking about like what happened to me the other day and want to bitch about that or whatever. And all of the ego that's wanting to just continue the narrative of the victim mentality, unfortunately. So it comes to a point where, we just have to protect kind of like our own energies without being mean, but getting away a little bit from people that just don't relate to us anymore. Because to be honest with you, they don't relate to us. They feel probably that energy that you've changed anyways. So they're not going to be the ones really talking about it because they don't know how to bring that up, obviously. But it's for us to be like, okay, if I'm not relating to these people or that person or whatever anymore, what can I do to stay well with who I am and be okay not forcing myself to have really just surface conversations that are not going to be bringing me anywhere and just going to be bringing me back into unnecessary stress and anxiety that doesn't even belong to me.
Yes.
Right. So it's
Right.
kind of like, it's hard for me to say to someone like, give strategies when it comes to that, because I also struggle still with that today. And I'm trying to bring balance into my life. But now the more that life is revealing to us that there's so much things that need to change, the more that I am realizing that I really, really have to make that decision and stick to that decision and be firm with the choice that I made of not participating in the chaos and in the illusions of what people want to continue to talk about. I just don't want to anymore. So I want to stop pretending in that sense. So that means less conversations, me feeling like not in a way where, because at the beginning, what can happen is that you want to connect with these people and you want to share with them everything that you know because you want to help them, right? And I think that that's what happens with a lot of people that are starting on this journey. And I've been there myself where you're like, I just want to get you out of your misery and show you how you can observe all of this and stop attaching to the drama and whatever, and stop talking about this and repeating yourself and all of these things that don't really matter, and just start thinking and feeling and deeper and higher kind of like vibrations. You want to do that because you love them. But we can't force anybody, obviously, to get on this particular journey if they're not interested in it, and that's okay. But the thing is that at one point, like what I'm feeling right now in my own life is I'm no longer going to try to pretend and kind of like participate into these conversations just so that they feel comfortable. I want to really just continue to be me.
Yes.
And if that means that I am quiet when they're speaking about things and I don't participate, then that's what's going to happen. Because I now don't need to be seen in this. I don't need to be understood in this, which was something that I used to feel like. I felt like, oh my God, I feel like I'm not connecting to anybody. I just want to talk about my things, but no one seems to want to listen. And I feel alone. I feel rejected. I feel not understood ever. And I feel isolated. This is what I used to feel. But after a while, when you're really integrating all of this and you're really going into witness consciousness and you're understanding that everything is just so impersonal, you're getting out of that energy of wanting and needing other people to see you and see you in that, I would say, lifestyle and understand you. You're just really owning it and saying like, I don't need for other people to see this. I'd like for them to see it in a way for themselves, not for me, right? So it now becomes a point where you just get a little bit more quieter, and not in a sense where you're being quiet because you don't like that person or whatever. It's just that you don't want to participate. And if it means hanging out with that person for 5 minutes instead of an hour, that's what it means. If it means getting on the phone with even your mom that is complaining about something and just keeping the conversation shorter, then that's what it means, because you want to respect where you are and love where you are as well. And Yeah, that sometimes it's something that we need to do. And especially in times like these, I think that like we don't have a choice
Right.
because we want to stay sane. So if that makes any sense, that's where
Yes.
I'm kind of doing what I'm doing right now.
It makes so much sense. And, I get asked a lot, well, aren't you lonely? And my response is typically, I feel more alone when I'm in a setting or a situation I can be with a whole bunch of people, but I don't feel seen as my true self. And I am more alone in that than if I'm sitting at home journaling or reading or meditating or on a walk in nature because I'm comfortable with myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you talk a lot about identity, which I love. I talk a lot about those versions and those titles and those roles we play in some of the work I do. What is your work around identity? And you said it earlier, shedding those versions.
Yeah. So I actually feel like our essence is not identified with anything. So we actually don't have an identity. But unfortunately, with the ego, we've created a lot of identities and different identities for different things, the way we relate to people and everything. So
Yes.
it is a constant shedding of identities that just don't serve us anymore. So the way that I see it is that you're just peeling off layers all the time, and it just brings you back to the essence of who you are, which is not identified with absolutely anything that is outside of you. So you basically do not have an identity. That's how I see identity.
I love that because in the world we're in, people want that. Even your Instagram bio and your TikTok bio and your speaker bio, and it starts making you, as they say, get in a niche, get in a box, and stick to it. And I hate that.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because when it comes to work, businesses and everything, when it comes to marketing, we've been taught that we have to create this kind of like persona for people to like us and people to kind of like, attach to us. And again, like attach, it's all kind of terms that are so much from the ego that is also just not helping the other person that is wanting to learn about all of these things to like don't attach to anybody. You don't have to attach to anybody. You can just listen and take what you like and take what you kind of don't resonate with all that much, and that's okay. But you don't have to, put anybody on a pedestal and just create kind of like become a fan. Like all of these things, I feel like they're so overrated, and it's done. Like we have to be over with this, because this is what's not helping people to actually evolve. Because people are still again in that. So they're going into spirituality, let's say, but they're they're creating another identity within, that the spirituality. So they're now in their spiritual ego, if you want, and it's just like you're not really changing anything because you just kind of like you're doing the same thing you used to do with your other identity. Maybe that was mostly in, I don't know, you realize that you were too much in the victim mentality and you want to change that. So you're just switching personas. It sucks in that sense because even like as people like you and I, where, we just want to bring information out there. I'm not someone who wants to be idolized ever. Like ever.
No.
I don't want to have people that are attached to what I'm saying and that only want to believe in that. I actually want people to start self-coaching. That's difficult to,
Thank you.
yeah, it's difficult to kind of teach people that because then again, they're so used to, I need other people to have answers. So as much as I'm wanting to guide people into all of this, like I would really love, the thing that I would love the most is that they stop listening to everything and they just sit with themselves and that they find their own answers, because the truth is that we all have our answers, but we have to be quiet. We have to quiet the mind to really receive these answers that are inside of us, right? And so everything that's going on right now, there are so many different opinions again in the world. And it's normal, I guess, because people are awakening, people are discovering all these things and they just want to share. But there's a lot of misinformation out there that needs to be refined. And I'm talking mostly in the personal development world where, we're being told to be more and more doers and don't stop, action, action, action. But like the energy of the world right now is asking us to go more in our femininity. And that means letting go of the doer and the identity, like we're talking about, and just really letting life unfold the way that it's supposed to and stop trying to make things happen because that's just
Yes.
not working anymore. So, yeah.
So true. And I think that kind of segues into the construct of time, which is your first letter. And that makes people uncomfortable that it's going to take time because we're also in the world that wants a quick, instant fix and relief.
Yeah. And time again is an illusion. It's been, it's a man concept. It's not real in the sense where you always have time to take care of yourself because you're not creating time, you're actually creating space. And this is what the letter was explaining is that when you want to connect to your higher self, you don't need more time. You need to make a decision to create more space inside of you and in your life to prioritize what is really re-energizing like what's kind of like fueling you now, and that doesn't require a agenda and all of these things that are so restricted with
Yes.
time. It asks of you an openness and an expansion of being more present for one, and you don't need time to be present. That's how I kind of see it. You can be present in everything that you actually do. And we all know this, but we don't do it, unfortunately, because we're so consumed with the thoughts and we're always kind of like attached to this concept of time of like, oh my God, I need to be there at this time. And I have to make sure that this is going to be done. And we have a sense of urgency, unfortunately, for absolutely everything that we do, which is ridiculous, but that comes from survival mode. And most of us are still, unfortunately, a bit too much in survival mode. So everything seems to be timely. And so again, with time, people are also, or at least the world is asking us to stop planning because plans don't work anymore in the sense where everything changes so quickly that you can't really plan because something is going to happen where, it's out of your control and then your plan is just going to fall and you have to get used to that because this is what life is. And when you realize that, you actually are very happy to stop planning and be more spontaneous because this is the nature of who you are. Like you should be spontaneous and you shouldn't be attached so much again to, I want to go there next weekend and then talk about the future constantly because you're just not happy where you're at. So you're always wanting to just continue to create more of these plans to kind of like have a sense of like accomplishment somehow because you're looking forward to something that's going to happen. But what about right now? Like, how are you enjoying the present moment, even if there's not a lot going on? There's actually a lot going on, but you're not paying attention because you're just wanting to be in your future thoughts and try to find something that's more entertaining of what's going on right now. But really, like right now is the peace that you're always looking for. So you're looking for the feeling of peace in a future event that will not bring you peace because when you're going to be in that event, you're going to be thinking about the other event that you're going to go to next time. And so you're just not staying present ever. So you're trapped in this concept of time where it really just doesn't exist. Like time is right now. This is what it is. It's right now. And how can you create the best of who you are right now in this presence and here, and just feel alive here. And I think that is really what I wanted to, or at least what my higher self wanted to bring to this letter where it was telling you like, you don't need more time and create more time to connect to me. You can just sit here and realize that I'm always here. Like I'm always here. And actually, when you're thinking about the future too much, you're disconnected from me because you're not getting that I'm not there, I'm here. This is how I now see time. And, the more that I connect to that part of me and I discipline myself, the more that I don't even see time go. For one, everything goes so fast. And also, I'm never late anywhere. I'm never in a hurry to go anywhere. So I don't have that constant stress and that sense of urgency because I know that it doesn't matter. I'm always really in a sense, I'm always on time because I'm not thinking about I should be on time to go somewhere. I just go with the flow of my day, and I don't worry about time so much. Obviously, like I'm not rebel in the sense where I'm not going to be late on things. I don't do that. I don't
Right.
want to
Right.
do not respect other people's times in that sense. And we all have like our jobs are required. And unfortunately, we have to respect sometimes. But I don't
Yes.
really see time as kind of like I'm not trapped in that sense in the concept of time. So I'm always okay with everything unfolds and I'm okay. And if I am late, I mean, again, this is out of my control and I communicate well. So if you have a sense of communication that's really great and you're respectful in your life, you can communicate to people, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to be late for this or whatever. And I feel like that's very authentic and real. That's what we need to start doing.
Well, I think I just screwed myself because what you just said spoke to what my partner has been trying to get me to relinquish for like the last 3 years as far as planning my life, his life, our life. So, wow, he will probably love this episode. So much to ponder, so much. And I've said this to people because I used to be constantly escaping, planning the next trip, the next big thing to escape the life I was in because I wasn't happy. So I've gone on like fewer trips this year. I'm not planning a trip because I'm at peace and happy where I am. I don't need that escape. And that's actually a really great place to be.
Yeah. And that's a lot of simplicity as well in your life, right?
Yes, which is my focus for the year. And when I say that, people are like, well, you're only going to focus in 2025. No, I'm going to bring it forth. Like flow has stayed with me since 2020, like you said, to go with the flow and to be in that peace and to trust yourself and where you are and your intuition. You bring it forward. So let's wrap up with because you've said so much that I'm going to have to go back and reflect and journal and sit with for quite a while. Where can people find you?
So they can find my book on and my course on my website on
Mhm.
www.lettersbyellie.com. And yeah, they'll find a couple of information on there. There's also a free sample of the book that people can. I think that there's like 3 letters on there that they can go and read if they are interested in just getting to know what that's all about. Yeah, that's all on my website. And
Yes.
then if people want to connect to me personally, they can go through Facebook and they can go through Instagram, and both of them are just really just my name, Ellie LaLiberté. So they're going to find me there pretty easily. And other than that, I think that that's pretty much how people connect with me.
Well, I am so glad that I did get to connect with you because it's already shifted some of my behavior and thoughts and actions this week and how I'm approaching really the next phase of my life. So I hope to stay connected. And once I kind of digest through this, I'm going to come back for more.
Yeah, amazing. And if I can just say something that I kind of forgot to say, what's going on right now in the world and what people really have to start doing.
Yes, please.
I would say that what helped me the most in all of this was finding myself a really good community. So we were talking about how, to just stay in all of this because you get out of it and then you're going to work and you have people that are not into this and whatever. And so you're not relating to anybody. And it can get lonely in that sense, right? So the best way to do all of this is to find yourself a community. And there's so much communities right now online that there's not really an excuse to not find people that you relate to. And even if they're not close to you, there are communities that have people all over the world that we have kind of like Zoom calls, like, and yeah, I'm just putting this out there, but I am part of an amazing community that's called the Sacred Space. And for people who are really, really connected to this work and want to dive deeper all the time and want to continue to practice, this is what we do. So you can also find this community somewhere on my socials. But yeah, absolutely. Like if you want to get to know more about this community, you can contact me personally and I'll be really happy to share the link. but I participate, like, I need my people. I need these interactions like what we're doing right
Yes.
now. I need
Right.
that. If I don't have that, then that's where I go more into a basically almost depression in a sense, because I don't have any connection with other people. Like it's cool to have my higher self and I love it and I'm happy to be very connected to my higher self, but there's nothing like bonds that you build with other people that are like-minded, and it's just, it feels so good to know that you have these friends. You can call them almost like your soul family at one point, because you guys are just so much on the same vibration, on the same length, and it is so much important. And even if you have a family, let's say you have kids, you have a husband, but your kids and your husband might not be into this and all that much. It's fun to hang out with your family, obviously, but if you're into this and you want to feel like exactly like you're being seen, you're being heard, you're wanting to relate and just eat this up because it's so much fun at the same time. Anyways, I love it. You're gonna want to be
Yes.
surrounded by people that are also wanting to continue to explore all this, because it's always evolving too. And like there's, you guys, I know that like when I'm with this group, like we have conversations that I will never have with anyone that is kind of like around me physically. So I am so grateful
Yes.
to have these conversations, and I'm there like at least 2 to 3 times a week. And it's only 1 hour a day, but it's like that hour brings up my vibration like nothing else, because the energies are just so powerful when we're all together. It's just, man, it's priceless. So absolutely, if ever you're interested in being part of a community like that, DM me and I will direct you for sure, because it is very much worth it to find your people that are similar to you, especially in these times. You want to stick to that.
That is the premise of my work. And what I encourage people to do is find your people. They exist and you keep looking until you find them because they are out
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Yes. We appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your work and your story and helping us get to a better place.
Thank you so much for accepting me on this podcast and having these great conversations, because they are very important and we need awesome hosts like you to initiate the conversations and give us a space for us to be able to talk about these things, right?
Yes. Yes. It's so important. It really is. We have enough noise out there. We need the real conversations. And so I'm glad we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining Midlife Catalyst, a place where ordinary people share extraordinary stories of growth and change at any age or stage of life. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure and hit the like button and give us a follow and subscribe so you don't miss a moment of any future episode. You never know where I may be or what my face might say. If you enjoyed today's show, leave a comment so I know what resonated with you. Be sure to share the episode with a friend who you think might benefit from today's story. I'm Amanda Younts, and I am so grateful for you coming on this journey with me as I learn to fly. Remember, AI can do a lot, but it cannot write your life story. Be the CEO of your own life and write your own narrative. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you among the wildflowers.